Hello, everybody. This is your host, Mia. Thank you for tuning in and listening to another episode of the one and only SoulWave Podcast. Enjoy. What's up, guys? Long time no talk. Well, it hasn't been that long. It's only been like a week or so, but if you follow the SoulWave Podcast Instagram, it's literally at the SoulWave Podcast, you would have seen that I posted a little post saying that I need some time right now. And that's because I had this crazy spiritual awakening a couple weeks ago, and the energy was so intense and it was still moving through me. It's still moving through me, I feel, and I just needed some time to process it. I needed some time to find the words, because the entire time while I was going through this thing, I was just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to share this on the podcast. I wish I had the podcast mic with me right now, but I didn't. And it was a god-awful event, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, incredibly healing and liberating. And I'm so happy I went through that. And I can't wait to share it. And I don't think I have the words yet, so I'm not talking about that today. Sorry to blue ball you, but or tease you. But I hope that gets you excited to tune in when I eventually do find the words to share that with you guys, because it was profound. And yeah, but oh man, the last 2 weeks has put your girl through the ringer after that. The energy was just so intense and I just needed some time. But that's life, It's not about, what's that quote? That Rocky quote. It's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how fast you get back up and keep pushing forward. God, I love that quote. That's a good one. A+ for Rocky. He really went off with that one. Oh, God. Oh, I'm stretching right now. I just had an urge to. See, that's the energy moving through me. People don't realize that, but that's why we should always be stretching, especially if you decided that you were an empath. The energy just stays stuck and stagnant in us. But anyway, what I do want to talk about today is discipline. It's been heavy on my mind because I've been digging more into my Saturn placement. And Saturn's been pretty active right now in the sky. Saturn is the planet of discipline. He is basically, there's a meme in the spiritual community that calls him Daddy Saturn, because he's going to make you learn this lesson whether you want to or not. It is something that you cannot run from, you cannot hide from. You can try and not face it, but eventually it's going to come swinging in. And there is a period of time that we will all go through between 29 and 31, and then again 30 years after that. That's called the Saturn return. And the Saturn return means that the transit Saturn, so where Saturn will be in the sky at that time period of life, is transiting through the same zodiac sign that it was in your chart, in your birth chart, your natal Saturn. So I have a couple years for that, but I'm just, the horror stories, oh my God, from people's Saturn returns, just getting absolutely humbled by life. And not to scare anybody, but I'm going to be honest with you, that kind of puts me on edge. And I don't want to be looking at astrology like, oh my God, you gotta beware, or be scared. But it is an energy, and I've been humbled before in my life, and I do not, man, I have PTSD from those events that get triggered. So I want to do what I can now to feed my Saturn. And what does feeding your Saturn mean? It means doing the lesson, the challenges that I've been avoiding, and I have not been facing. And so that's made me think of discipline in my own life, because I had a feeling the other day a terrible, terrible feeling. I hate this feeling. It happens every couple months where I'm laying in my bed and I'm thinking about my life and I'm thinking about, man, if I would have stayed consistent and disciplined when I tried to implement that new structure a couple months ago, maybe I would have been farther along by now. And it's that sinking of the stomach, that disgusting feeling in the pit there, that really just puts me over the edge. Like, there's nothing worse than that feeling of realization that if you stuck to the plan, you would have been farther along. And that's just facts, I feel like. So I literally, this entire week, have been going back and looking at all the times I tried to implement a new structure for myself, implement new daily routines or habits, and create discipline. Some areas of my life, I don't have an issue with that. Like going to the gym. It's not an issue for me, but it's not an issue for me because I've been an athlete my entire life. I've been kicking around a soccer ball since I was 4 years old, so that's second nature. It's because our life is an accumulation of habits that we've had since birth. And the more we repeat them, whether we want to or not, because I can think of so many times where I had to go to practice and I did not want to go. But like I didn't really have a choice. I was, I don't know, 7 to 17 at the time, and it was like an obligation. It was a requirement. It was part of the job. But all those times I didn't want to go was just reinforcing this routine of exercise and physical activity, working out and moving my body. So working out for me now isn't an issue. But there are many other aspects of my life that I want to have more discipline in and more consistency because I'm trying to save my future self from that disappointment feeling that I felt the other night. That disgraceful feeling of like, damn, I really could, we really could have avoided this probably if we stayed committed and stayed consistent. But why is it so hard? Man, why is it so fucking hard? Ah! I just did the Hulk fucking, I don't even know what it's called, the Hulk move in my studio as I was recording that. Oh man, like it pisses me off. Ah! But then I think of a quote that I always hold deeply to myself because I've seen it time and time again in my life that nothing worth having comes easy. And I'm going to stop questioning why it's hard. I'm going to acknowledge that it's hard as fuck. But the more I question it, nothing is going to get solved. So instead of moping and crying, poor me, I just went back and started looking at all these places where I tried to implement the new structures and it didn't work. And don't get me wrong, I want to say this real quick. Sometimes you should mope and you should cry, poor me. But let me think about how to word this. I say this because you can't be the hero of your story until you be the victim. You cannot be your own savior until you be the victim. And I want to always emphasize and let people know that it's okay. If you are feeling these emotions of like, fuck man, this is so hard, feel it, acknowledge it, don't judge it. Go to a therapist about it. Like, talk about it. Because that's real. Like, there have been so many times on this discipline journey where I'm like, dude, I wish this shit was easy. I really do. I wish I won the lottery. Do you know how, oh my God, do you know how much easier this life would be? But then I think about how there is no substance in that. And that is the handout. And my pride, baby, my pride is fragile. I I refuse to take a handout. I don't want it. There's no substance in that. I look at discipline and I look at hard work from the people around me in my life, and I look at the individual and they've become someone you can't tell shit to. Rightfully so. And I want that for myself because sorry, just a random motorcycle at 6 a.m. Um, I want that for myself because I value that and I respect that. I respect someone who has fallen down a million times but has gotten back up a million more times. I respect someone who has stayed so committed to the things they want that they eventually got it. I feel like social media and society makes it seem like everything's overnight and that it's 0 to 100 and that success will happen in a couple days or a couple weeks once you start this. But that's not the case. And I think that's why the times in the past when I tried to implement self discipline is why I've fallen off because I didn't see results right away when I was expecting to see some type of success. And it's frustrating because, we are in it for the long haul. We have to make those sacrifices now, like our present self doing all the work right now so that our future self can see success. Or at least in my case, that my future self doesn't feel this shameful, disgraceful, disgusting feeling at midnight laying in her bed, wishing life would be different because it's so stagnant right now. But nothing changes unless something changes. And you can't look outside of yourself for that change. It all has to be internally. So yeah, you know what? Be the victim. Mope around for a little bit. Cry poor me and wish this shit was easier, but do it for about a day or two. Or I guess, I don't know, a week. Don't do it for too long because the longer you're in it, the longer you're continuing to put this shit off. And then recognize that you can be the savior of your own story and that you have the power to change it. And think about all the skills and the strength of mind and probably physical body and the strength of emotional body that you will get from embarking and sticking to a journey of self-discipline. Because that's what I'm in for. Because I'm only 25, baby. Like, I know there's going to be so many other paths I walk where life is going to change and I need to be flexible and adapt, but I'm also going to need structure and routine. And I feel like if I start doing this now, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to do it than later. I want to do this now so I can avoid any more of these uncomfortable feelings that are really just brought on by myself. When I think of the podcast, I'm like, if I was a little more disciplined and I set a little more time away from that, then I wouldn't feel like I'm waiting till last minute or that I didn't put in my all to a podcast episode when that's how I want to show up. And not even for you guys. I mean, of course, I want you guys to feel that from these episodes, but it's for myself. Because the negative self-talk that like punches me consistently in my brain hurts and it's too much. And I don't want to think or even give my mind the opportunity to be like, you could have done better if you were more disciplined, if I was already just more consistent and disciplined. So why is it so hard? Clearly, I want these things. I really want better for myself. That's a strong why in itself. But why is it so hard? So that's why I did this last week. I went through all the times that I tried to be disciplined and implement new structures. And I was like, first off, I'm looking at these times as like I failed. And then I started to feel bad for myself. And then I started to believe that like I'm a failure and I can't achieve this. Because I even said on season 6, first episode 1 of season 6, that like I am not the 5:30 a.m. disciplinarian. Like that, I can't. That's not for me. My mental health is too precious for that. But like it seems appealing. Like I want that for myself, but like that's just not for me. I literally said that. And I straight up lied to you guys. But more importantly, like I lied to myself. Cause man, I want that. I want that for myself. Whether it's 5 a.m. or just more discipline, that's really what it was. But my ego was just like keeping me in my comfort zone, keeping me from not feeling the shame of realizing that not for nothing, I actually do want that. It's just because I have all these times in my past that seem like a failure because I've tried and it didn't work out. That's in my brain. But I was like, why? Why am I not looking at these times like how I look at everything else in life as something I can learn from, as a lesson, especially with discipline? Because it's not a one size fits all. And we know that, but we tend to forget because we see social media and all these people around us that we compare ourselves to. And we think that if we want that, this is how it should look to get there. But that's not the case. We all are individually here for a different reason, on a different path. And some aspects might work in our life versus different ones. So why am I not looking at this like an opportunity to take what did work for me and keep using it and throw out what didn't and try something new? And then have that be in my mind when I try these new things and be okay with if it's not working. And yeah, go ahead and take a week off, but not let myself take too much time off. Not let myself mope around for months. And then like have a realization like, damn, man, like life, the mundane of life is just kicking my ass. Like it's the same shit every day, but nothing changes if nothing changes. So that was the first thing. Let me stop looking at these times that I tried to implement discipline as if I failed and that can't be me. Let me pull what I can from it, use what worked, and throw out what didn't. Because from as long as I can remember, I had loved myself enough to want that for myself, to even go ahead and try to be disciplined. And just because it didn't work, I felt like a failure. I don't know where that belief or system came into my awareness, but it's there. Probably society. Yeah, I want to say it's probably society because I also blame, but I'll take full accountability for believing this in my mind, that we have been programmed to believe, again, like it's short term, that this shit's going to happen overnight or it's going to happen in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. And that's not the case, man. Because most of the time, even if it does happen in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it's not sustainable. The process and the path and the journey we took to get there that quick is something that will be fleeting, that we cannot sustain for the rest of our life. And that's what I want. I want something that's going to not only work now, but work in a way that I can mold it and flex it to whatever I need it to be for wherever phase I'm in life later on down the line. I think about, man, like a relatable example is losing weight. Every time I wanted to lose weight and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, how can I lose weight as fast as possible? Instead of thinking, how can I lose weight and keep it off? It was, how can I lose weight as fast as possible? Because I've lost weight so many times in the past, but I've gained it all back. And I always went to the route of keto. Now, don't get me wrong, keto works for some people, but in my case, it didn't work. And I would lose weight. I would lose like 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I would love myself. I would love it. And then I'd kind of slack off and not keep up, or realize that like it was harder to keep up. Because like I want different things in my life. Like I want to go out. I want to enjoy food. I'm about the pleasures, baby. I'm a Taurus sun. I'm here for the senses. I want to indulge. And you can't do that on keto. At the time when I lost 15 pounds, my carb intake was below 20 grams, man. 20 grams. That's nothing. You think of like a Gatorade. Man, there's 80 grams of sugar in a Gatorade. You're already 4 days over. It's crazy. That's not sustainable for me. But I feel like it's because we're programmed to think, like, how can we get there the fastest instead of understanding that there's merit in working hard and waiting to reap the seeds that you have sown. It's just, one, we're all impatient as fuck. If I'm being honest, I feel like I'm the most impatient person ever. But two, it's harder to remain disciplined because it becomes more frustrating to understand that my present self has to do all the hard work now, like I mentioned. And it's my future self that sees the results. But like, I can't wait till then. But I have to. And I'm glad I came into that understanding because I'm going to try my best and my hardest to keep that in the front of my mind when embarking on a new daily routine or new structures to implement discipline, is that I'm doing this now because I love my future self enough to not have to feel those uncomfortable emotions of feeling that she could have been farther along, but then to also like be that individual that we wanted to be. I found this quote. I don't know who came up with it. I did not come up with it, but it says, "You can't shame yourself into change. You can only love yourself into evolution." And I love that so much because I can count all the times that I've tried to be disciplined and it was motivated by shame. Don't get me wrong, shame and that disgusted feeling that I mentioned are great motivators. If you don't have shame, if you don't have guilt, if you don't have resentment towards yourself occasionally, you're never going to change and you're never going to want better or desire better for yourself. And that's everything in life, is being able to go out and get more. But when we come from a place of shame, I realized when I came from a place of shame that created more instability inside of myself because I am going at these things as if I'm not worthy already. And that I would then be chasing something, and even if I reached my goal, I still wouldn't feel worthy or good enough. I would shame myself into change every time I would compare myself to these muscle mommy baddies on Instagram or these 5 a.m. disciplinarians. Like, oh my God, I need to get my life together. Let me implement 20 new daily habits. Because clearly adding a shit ton of new things on my plate is going to work. Wrong. That's another thing. Like, it's not overnight. And the more we put on our plate, the more shit we load on, it's going to be harder and more difficult to do. That's why it's so hard. I think all of us just try to completely do a whole 180 of our life and uproot and take everything out and place a whole bunch of new things in. But if when these habits we've been doing every single day, sometimes even unconsciously for our life, has been reprogrammed in, cemented in every single time we do it, it reinforces that pattern. It's going to be hard to not only throw those old ways out, but to also keep these new ways in. And that's when I'll say all the times in the past, I didn't realize it was really baby steps. It sounds appealing to completely just restructure your entire life when you've never done it before, ever, because you're like, damn, if I just get all this shit done and out of the way now, I'll be at my goals a lot sooner. But again, man, like there is no such thing as like 0 to 100. And it's not overnight. And like, if anything, that's going to make you burn out quicker. That's what I noticed in my life. I'd ask way too much of myself. That's unrealistic. It's like, for example, if you want to like just feel better about your body and you want to be healthier and lose weight, if you've never worked out before in your life and you set a goal to work out 6 times a week, that's unrealistic. I mean, people do it, but it's hard. But they keep doing it and they keep pushing themselves because their desire to want better for themselves is greater than the feeling of difficulty. So just keep that in mind. It's hard as fuck, man. I get it. It's difficult. But sometimes I like to gaslight myself and say, because I feel like there's some truth to this, that it's only hard because we tell ourselves it's hard. But at the same time, like, I want to empathize with you guys. Like, I know the struggle. I am sitting here with just like, man, like, God, disgrace. It's so god awful, this feeling. And I want you guys to know that I know it's not easy. I don't have my shit together. I've struggled so many times, over and over, time and time again. But when I was taking this last week to look back at all these times, like I said, like, one, there weren't failures, they were lessons. Two, I keep thinking success was going to show up at my doorstep in a week. Where are my abs? Or where are these life-changing epiphanies that I should be having because I'm dedicating so much time to meditation? And three, I'm adding a million other things on my to-do list when I don't even do the things that are normally on my to-do list. You got to slowly add them in one by one and then celebrate those small wins. I'm looking forward to doing that because once this feeling hit, I'm like, all right, it's time. It's time, baby. Let's do it. Let's try this again. But let's see what worked and let's see what didn't. Another thing, too, is that I think why self-discipline is so difficult is because I am a recovering people pleaser. Sometime in my childhood, I discovered that it was easier to throw myself under the bus just to make another individual more comfortable because I could feel their emotions and I can feel their pain and their suffering. And if I just did whatever, I don't really remember what that would be, but dim my light to please them, even at the expense of myself, amazing. Then I don't have to feel these uncomfortable emotions anymore from them. And then once I realized that worked, I did it again. And I did it again. And I did it again. And like I mentioned before, when you reinforce a pattern, it becomes more ingrained and cemented into your brain. And you just start doing it unconsciously. You don't even realize you're doing it. Until one day you wake up and you realize, like, oh my God, these ways that I've been surviving aren't helping anymore. And they're actually causing me more pain than good. But I bring that up because being a recovering people pleaser, it's difficult for me to establish boundaries. I don't necessarily always recognize the disrespect or that I'm being taken for granted right away. Or I should just not be being treated this way. Like, I'm deserving of more than this. But the difficulty with establishing boundaries outwardly also transpires to the difficulty of establishing boundaries inside my head. And I want to mention that even if you are good with establishing boundaries outside of yourself, you could also be a little too lenient in your head as well. When we are too lenient in our head, we make excuses and we make justifications and we slack off and we don't show up for ourselves. Especially when we don't really need to. And that's what makes me think of you can't shame yourself into change. You can only love yourself into evolution. This is when having these boundaries in your mind are important. Let's say you want to meditate more because you're just looking for more peace of mind. And you wake up one day or you wake up a couple days during the week and you're like, man, I don't have to meditate today. Like, life is going really well. Like, I feel so good. I feel amazing. Things are working out. I'm loving life again. It's in those moments where, especially if you just started this discipline journey or these new routines, that you show up and you continue to do that habit because you're reinforcing that new pattern. And you need to reinforce that new pattern so that your old ways of being don't come creeping back in and you slack off again. And it's establishing that boundary in your head to say, even if I feel good, even when I don't think I need to, and even when I don't want to, and I'm tired and I don't have the energy in life, life is asking too much of me right now. Even when all those things are happening, I'm still going to show up because I know it's not about me now. It's about me in the future. And I hate, oh man, I hate to try and sound like these people from social media because I'm on social media, duh. Well, just had that realization. Wow. I like to think I'm so edgy and cool and different. No, I'm one of them. And it's true. They're right. There's some merit in that. 100%. And that's what they've been trying to tell us. But no one wants to talk about discipline, man. It brings up too much shame. Oh my God. They don't even want to think about it. Believe me, I get it. Don't even want to think about it. So I said what I said on the first episode of season 6. Oh God. So yeah, that's where I've been at the last week. And I'm excited because I'm going to show up for myself again because I'm committed. I'm not interested. No matter how many times I may feel like a failure and because I derailed off of the structures I was trying to implement, I'm just going to look at it a lesson and take what I can. And I'm going to try again because this is my life and I want more for myself. I do. And I'm done making these excuses or thinking I can't have that because I absolutely can. And we all can. You just need to believe that. And going at this from an understanding that I'm worthy now. I'm worthy of everything I want now. And that I love myself now, but I can also be more. What? What an epiphany. I love myself now, but I can also be more. I love that so much because it's so true. It's so true. And it also will not have me chasing after fulfillment that isn't there because I don't feel it now. Fulfillment isn't when you just achieve something. It's a state of being. It's understanding and having that love for yourself now, not when you get these things, because you're worthy of that now, regardless of all your flaws, of all your insecurities, of all your excuses. You're worthy of that now. I hope you believe that. I'm very excited to start this again because even if I do derail and it doesn't work, now I have this understanding and I'm just going to bounce back and get up quicker. And I'm going to keep going. Because I think, 5 months until 2024 is over. I do not want to be the person I am sitting here today recording this podcast. I would be damned. So I'm going to try. I'm going to work my little ass off. And I'm going to keep getting back up no matter how many times I get punched. I was going to get this tattoo when I tore my ACL for the 4th time. But, my priorities for money are just so many other places other than just inking myself. But one day I'll have it. I'll have many tattoos, but anyway, I want to get Still I Rise. Oh, I love that. Chokes me up thinking about that. Fall down so many times, but you're still getting back up. Because you love yourself enough to continue to try. Continue to want more. I think that's it for today, guys. I love you all so much. If you enjoyed this, if this resonated with you, it would mean so much if you can like, subscribe, comment, share, review, or just follow. It helps me more than you know. And anything you may need, if you want to find me on my social medias, if you want to check out my website below, you can find it in the description box. So that's it, guys. I love you all so much, and I will catch you on the next wave. Bye.